What's up, everyone? Welcome to, if you're Luke, it could be the Dynasty Duties, or it could also be the Los Grande Podpinos.
That's a good name.
That is a good name. Thanks for coming up with it. Welcome to the first ever, maybe it's the only ever, it might keep going, who knows, podcast. I will let you guys know right now, we don't plan on spending 45 minutes talking about only Jordan Love and Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, those two aren't that good anyway, so it kind of works out.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes, but we got a lot in store for you today, and I say we should just dive right into it, Casey.
We might as well.
Let's talk about the 2024 fantasy season. Let's recap it. Anything surprising happen?
Yeah, so I think the most surprising thing to everybody was Max went from having a bye in the first round of the playoffs to having a bye in the toilet bowl.
Yeah, and that was pretty shocking.
Also did Sam. The two people who had the buys in the playoffs were the two people who had the buys in toilet bowl this year.
It's true. And also, not to talk about people who owned your 25 first were just flat out on the rock, just understood that it was going to be a lotto first.
Yeah. Well, I owned that first for most of the year. I made some moves knowing that I was going to lose and hoping that I would get Ashton Jency because my main problem was running back. And then I started to accidentally win a lot of games. And won, I think, like 14 in a row until it all came crashing down at the very end, which is...
I think 12 in a row.
12 in a row?
You went 12-2, which is an incredible season that everyone just no one would have guessed that.
Yeah, who would have thought that two teams in the toilet bowl were the ones that beat me? It was Zeke and Max that actually beat me.
Oh,
and it was the
I didn't realize that.
first 2 weeks of the season. And Max, I would have won if I played someone else, but he had CMC in his lineup, so I could have won because CMC didn't play week 1. They announced it like right before and he had no players to play. So I think I lost by like 20 something, but I had someone on my bench. I think I could have won.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
But it happens. But yeah, that was kind of nuts. I thought I was going to lose out again this year, and hopefully next year was going to be the year that I was going to do good, and then I ended up selling everything this year. So
yep, and then to no one's surprise, Carson also made it to the title game.
Yeah,
and
destroyed me.
He just is completely dominant. So
yeah,
walk us through your emotions of how the season started to making it to the championship game to being the loser.
Yeah, so going into the season, I expected to lose again, and then get my first one against Bryce, I was really excited. I was in the McDonald's with my girlfriend and just playing cribbage. And I just remember checking the score every couple seconds because Bryce had a player playing and I didn't. And it was a really stressful game. And I remember I finally won. And I'm like, this is great because I haven't won a game. I won 0-14 last year. So I hadn't won a game. And I just kept winning. And then beating Rob on an 80-yard touchdown from Jamison Williams was pretty amazing.
That's almost your title game in itself right there.
Yeah, I beat him twice. Played him twice this year. Won both times. Pretty easy. It was great.
Sorry, Rob.
Sorry. Happens. And then I went to the humble approach of not trolling people because I was like, man, I'm actually kind of winning stuff here. I can make the playoffs and go on a run. So I just started being more humble and not saying anything. And it was working. And then I got to the end and it didn't work because everyone got hurt.
Yeah, you made some moves in the offseason that you thought were going to hurt you, so you could use your pick well, but switching Swift for Chase Brown. And that ended up being one of the best moves in the offseason. Yep,
that one was amazing. That was during the middle of the season. That was when Swift was getting 25 to 30 points a week. Mm-hmm. I realized the Bears offense was looking, at that point, was actually looking good, and I was tired of winning games. And Chase Brown hadn't done what Chase Brown was doing yet. He was still bad and behind Zach Moss. And then I think the week after that is when he started scoring 20 to 30 points a week. And I go, wow, this works out great. Because then Swift ends up sucking for the rest of the season. And I'm like, well, okay, that's a good one. And I gave away Gabe Davis too.
Yeah.
The guy's not that great. And I got a second back as well. So I got the Bengals backfield in a second for Gabe Davis and Swift. And I'm like, that's not...
That works.
That's pretty good now. That's,
2024 is in the past. It's behind us now. We're going to look forward to 2025. We're going to talk about some outlooks there. I'm sure people are tired of hearing us talk about your team. Like you said, we're not like the other podcasts. We don't want to spend too much time talking about just one team.
Yes.
And also stick around until the end, everyone, because we do have some pepinos we want to give out, some awards for the 2024 season, but we'll come back to that. But Casey, I want to talk about the 2025 season. Looking forward, we're getting some new divisions. Teams are going to probably look different. Like we said, no one thought you were going to make it to the playoffs, let alone the championship. So I want to ask you a few questions regarding the new divisions, and then maybe like some surprise sleepers for the playoffs, or people who might not make it. Any hot takes you have? So let's talk about divisions. How do you see maybe the divisions lining up? Because you, Carson, and Jason get to draft those. So let's hear kind of your thoughts on how you think that's gonna line out.
Yeah, so I went from being the person who was drafted second into their division to being the person who gets to draft the divisions, and I'm the first person that gets to draft someone. I think it's pretty obvious the last two picks of the new division are going to be Jason and Carson.
Well, they're...
Oh, wait, I guess they're picking. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Well, in that case, I have no idea who the last two would be. But I think it's pretty clear who the one's going to be. I think it's... With me being the first person, I might as well just say it. It'll probably be Zeke. His team traded away 2 firsts for 2 seconds last year. So that's a great thing to have going into the new division drafts. After that, I think it's going to be kind of crazy. I think a lot of teams have actually leveled out, and a lot of teams have a lot of assets. Luke owns pretty much the entire first and second round. I think he has more picks than he has draft spots or like roster spots available.
Probably does.
So he's going to have to make some moves either with players or picks, sending those away to somebody out there. So I think Luke could be a surprise into the playoffs next year. I think his team is built similar to mine last year, but his receivers are better because he has like Puka and Amon-Ra, and all he needs is like running backs. He has Jaden Daniels also. So if he like improves his team and just makes it so it's across the board better, he could easily make the playoffs with the amount of picks he has, because he has a chance at, doesn't he have like 1 or 2 lottos?
That's a great question. Let me pull it up and look. But I was also looking at the teams here. If I had to guess who my second and third picks would be, I think the second pick, it might be close between Bryce and Karsten. And I only say Carson. Like, Carson's got a decent team, but he's got the Rob effect going on. He's aging out. Like, his quarterbacks,
yes,
the question marks are in the air for Matt Stafford and Aaron Rodgers. And who knows, maybe like Stroud comes out of his funk and he's okay. But, he's also got players like Cooper Kupp, Travis Kelce. Those guys aren't getting any younger.
Kelce.
Juwan Jennings was a surprise pickup for him. But he's also, 27, 28? Like,
something like that, yeah. He's not
And he wasn't like meant to be the 1 or even the 2 on that team. So with Brandon Ayuk coming back, who knows? So I could see Carson going 2 or 3. And then Bryce.
I think everybody just wants to take Bryce because he'll do something crazy and trade away a first for Jalen Warren. And he missed the playoffs again, and there's a good chance that Carson, who owns that first, is going to get Ashton Genty after already having Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Lamar, and Joe Burrow.
That would be brutal. To answer your question about Luke, he has 4 firsts in 2025. 1 is Max's, and 1 is mine. So those are both lottos. And then he also has Carson's and Chance's.
You said Carson?
Yeah, Carson and Chance.
Okay.
And then he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Which is, he's got Karsten's second, Bryce's second, your second, his own second, and Max's second. So, yeah, Luke is set up for success looking into the 2025 year. So maybe come 2026, if those players really like bloom and blossom, he could be a powerhouse come 2026, or he does the Sapardi effect and he becomes a powerhouse in 2025.
Yep.
Assuming this draft class
is actually good,
is any good or not. So, what about not making the playoffs? Anyone you think that like, oh, they should make the playoffs, but could shock us all? Like Max was that person and Sam this year. So who do you think it could be moving into 2025?
I think I could be one of them that doesn't make it. I had 7th points for going in, but I had the least against. Yeah. I definitely got lucky. Everyone's team had their worst week against me, which was kind of nice. But my team at the end started scoring a lot of points every week.
That's true. You did start to pick up your points for once you made moves for like David Montgomery, Terry, and Chase Brown, Terry. Those guys were really helpful. Obviously, injuries plagued you and
made
it not.
Yeah,
Super fun.
the championship when Chase Brown hurt his ankle on the 1 yard line, and so he didn't score, so he fell. And then Joe Burrow rushed it in for a touchdown. It was a 12-point swing. That was brutal.
Yeah, that hurts. Yeah, I think Rob is an interesting one to look at for the playoffs. He always finds a way in when you think that he's like on his way out. He's got good players, but they are like hitting that age cliff. And it's like, does the steam run out eventually? I don't know. So it wouldn't shock me if he makes the playoffs again. But I don't think it would shock me if he missed. Yeah, I don't know if there's any, like, we would be super surprised if Carson didn't make it. And the only way Carson doesn't make it into the playoffs is
everyone's hurt.
If injuries happen, which that's very possible. Injuries can wipe a team. I was, like, projected to win in my other league by, like, a lot. Looking at some of the metrics on Sleeper, I was supposed to win by, like, over 40% of the entire league, and I didn't even make the playoffs because literally everyone got hurt that I had on my team. So anything's possible. It'll be interesting to look into next season and see what happens. Do you got any final hot takes talking about the 2025 season?
I think I'm interested to see what happens with Max and to see if he's going to actually be able to recover, because he made a lot of he had a lot of assets. He was Carson before Carson was, and he traded a lot of those people but got good people back. So he traded Christian McCaffrey to get CMC, traded Terry for
traded CMC to get DK.
Yes, that one. Traded Terry for a first, second, and third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He made some good moves, and he's probably going to continue to make moves in the offseason. We know Max isn't much of a pick guy. He would rather take proven players over the unknown players. So we'll see what happens. Rumors are circling that he's trying to ship some players, maybe some quarterbacks. So if you're interested, you guys can go reach out to Max if you're looking for anything.
Yep.
You got any guesses or potential out in the air? You think any big blockbuster trades are going to happen between now and the rookie draft? Or
I think I have a pretty big one that I've been sitting on for a while that'll surprise some people that I have not taken. But I'm also, I think you know about it. We talked about it at the Boise State versus Penn State game. I think that one could surprise some people, but I'm also not sure if I want to take that one. And I also approached another person during that day about a different trade potential.
Interesting.
I've had a lot of people reach out about some of my players, so I'm excited to see what happens with that. A lot of people don't want Anthony Richardson, I've learned. Reasonable. It happens, but I think he'll be good in the future. I think his problem is his arm's too big and he just needs to learn how to control it. And I think he can do that this year if he gets a good coach.
Yeah, that's what they said about me in high school. My arm was just too big, and
they didn't want to put you in there.
They didn't want to put me in.
They don't want to make everyone else look bad.
Exactly. So they benched me on the C squad too. So, but oh well.
Yeah, I think there could be a couple big ones. I'm interested to see what some people do with their superstars that need to trade. I think one person that I could see moving that I think would be personally a smart move because they don't have any other picks would be CD going somewhere. Mm-hmm. Zeke has, I think, Rob's first this year, and that might be his only pick. Mm-hmm. But he could easily trade CD for 2 firsts minimum and then get some other picks on top of that.
Here's the thing. Robbie doesn't have 2 firsts, so
that's
CD
true.
Lamb won't get traded for 2 firsts.
Yeah, and no one's going to let him do that with Carson.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a tough thing. But Zeke, if you're listening, you should probably trade CD. It would help your team.
It would a lot.
But, hey, you do you, man. You manage your team how you want. Anyways, let's move on. I did have one question for you about the new league format, the roster setup, adding that additional flex spot. What's your take on that?
I hate it.
You don't like the additional flex?
I voted no on it because all it does is it makes teams like Carson's better and Jason's better because their team's already great, and our teams were scoring 180 points and 200 points before we added that spot. So why would we give them the advantage of adding another spot to make their team better? Because all it's going to do is make the teams that are worse. My first year in the league, which is technically the second year of the league, I was starting Deuce Vaughn at running back for a couple of weeks.
He's a goat.
And I'm if I'm already grabbing the pennies there, why would adding another spot help me? So I was confused why some teams actually voted yes on it because they don't have the depth to actually support that. I think my team now is I'm able to. I looked at my starting roster and I'm able to put Jamison Williams in there now, mm-hmm. which I think he had 1,000 yards this season, which a lot of people didn't expect.
Yeah.
And probably a lot of people don't even know that he had 1,000. I think the Lions are the first team to ever have 4 people over 1,000 yards total.
The Lions are something else.
So they're interesting to see what happens this year after Ben Johnson leaves. And probably Aaron Glenn. So they're going to have no defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator. We'll see what happens there. But I don't like it. I have another proposed change too. We have that wide receiver tight end slot.
Such a stupid spot.
We might as well switch it to running back. There's no reason not to.
I mean, adding, so it'd be wide receiver, running back, tight end,
Yeah.
so a traditional flex spot.
So a traditional flex, because you can start right now 6 wide receivers, 2 quarterbacks, 6 tight ends. Why can't we start 6 running backs? Obviously, like you say, oh, running backs aren't valuable in Dynasty. Well, then why would it matter if we could start 6 of them if we wanted to?
Yeah. No, I agree. As a guy who has a good
bunch
amount
of
I mean, I only have 3 really good running backs, and I can start them. But I do agree that it'd be nice if you could just have the option to start 4 or 5 or 6, whatever you want to do. So who knows? Maybe we can put that to a vote come the rookie draft. And
that and kickers. Every year, kickers.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Kickers win Super Bowls.
Anyways, we have a segment here where I have gone through and chosen one player from each person's team, and I want to hear your opinion on the outlook of said player. Should be kind of a interesting deal here, but let's start with Rob's team. The player I'm interested to hear your take on is Stephon Diggs. Like, does he retire? Does he stay with Houston? Does he go to another team? Tell me what you think, like, the 2025 future outlook for Diggs is. Is he going to be helpful in fantasy? Is he going to be helpful in the NFL? Like, give me your thoughts.
I think Diggs is the kind of guy who won't retire until he knows he's done. I think the injury will set him back, but he was playing really good in Houston still. I think he's definitely a player who will stay on a roster and probably be in a starting roster. I can't remember, did he tear his Achilles or his ACL?
You know, I don't know. I'll look it up.
It was one of the 2 big ones. But I think he'll still be on a roster, and he'll be playing just fine. I think he'll stay in Houston. I think he likes it there. Like, he was the guy who, when the Bills lost the AFC Championship, stayed behind to watch the thing, and now every person known to man copies it. I saw some dude doing it like the Gasparilla Bowl. I'm like, why are you doing that? That game doesn't matter.
He tore his ACL.
Okay, yeah. So I think it depends how he comes back from that, because he's getting older. But I think he's, from what it sounds like from his personality, is he was the guy when the Vikings did an interview, who would you not let date your daughter? It's Diggs, who was the guy who was causing the locker room issues in Buffalo. Diggs. I don't think he would quit until he knows that he can't physically do it anymore. So I think he'll be in the league till he's older. He seems like a guy who'd be like DeAndre Hopkins, who he isn't really doing a whole lot, but he'll still be on a team at some point.
Yeah. So you think the best of Diggs is behind us? Yeah.
I think his best seasons were obviously in Buffalo, and I think he was really good. I had him in a redraft league his rookie year, picked him up off waivers, loved him. But I think the best is probably behind, and especially if he stays on Houston with having Nico Collins there. Mm-hmm. Tank going down helps his case. Mm-hmm. Sucks for Tank, because I think Tank could legitimately retire if he wanted to, because he had a pretty horrible breaking your leg and tearing everything at the same time.
Yeah.
That's just
super
horrible.
Tragic.
So I think
hopefully John Mechie takes up some snaps there.
Yeah, he could. I didn't know a whole lot about Mechie at all before. I know he was supposed to be a good prospect, and then he got cancer, and it kind of derailed everything. But I think Diggs could be good. So
tell me, is Diggs in fantasy wide receiver 1, 2, 3, 4? What where would you put him?
Probably a 3. I
think wide receiver
maybe a 2. I think he has upside of 2. I don't think he could be a 1.
Okay.
I don't think you want to build your team around him if you're.
Well, that's an interesting outlook on Diggs. Let's move on to Luke's team. The player I've selected is Josh Downs. I want to know, especially you as the AR owner, is Josh Downs, is he finally the number 1 for the Colts? Did he take over Michael Pittman? What's your take on Josh Downs?
I like him a lot. I actually drafted him initially, and I can't remember who I think Reggie Wayne's their wide receiver coach for Indy. I could be wrong, but
I'll Google it.
Whoever the wide receiver coach was for Indy.
Yeah, Reggie Wayne.
Yeah, so he's a Colts legend. He's been there in the building, and he's a great wide receiver. He said that Josh Downs was the best wide receiver in that draft when he got drafted his rookie year, and that was the year that had, who all was the rookie receivers?
Let me look.
2 years ago. Was that like JSN and QJ and all those guys?
I think it was, yeah. So it was 2022. Or I'll pull it up.
Yeah, I think those were the big guys. And Reggie Wayne was saying that Josh Downs was probably the best wide receiver out of all of them. And the only reason why he didn't get drafted earlier, which he got drafted in the second round still, I think, of the NFL draft. The reason he didn't get drafted earlier is because he got hurt in college and hurt his knee pretty bad.
Yeah, it was like Quentin Johnston, JSN, Jalen Hyatt, Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
Tank Dell.
So that was like, I think Josh Downs is really good. I think it's hard to be a Colts number one with AR because a lot of people don't watch Colts games because they have no reason to. I have a little bit more reason to. There's a lot of drops, specifically from tight ends. So I think AR loves to throw to tight ends. They just don't like catching the ball in Indy. So I think that Josh Downs has a potential to take over the one spot, but I think Pittman is still better than he is. I just think he had an off year. And they have more incentive to get Pittman better because they paid him a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens there because Alec Pierce looked really good as a deep threat guy, and Josh Downs is he's like Jaden Reed. He's very volatile. Jaden Reed's really good when Jordan Love wants to throw him the ball.
Yeah.
But when he doesn't get the ball, he's going to get 0 points.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, the wide receiver just room in Indy is going to be very interesting to pay attention to moving forward. Let's move on to the Melonheads. Carson and George. The player I've chosen here is Kyle Pitts. Do I really need to say anything? Does Michael Penix kind of revive him? What's your take on Pitts? Is he just a goner?
He's horrible. Carson should have traded him to Sam for a first last year. He had that offer. He didn't take it. I don't know why he didn't take it. I told him I picked him up from the airport and I was like, you should probably take that. Kyle Pitts kind of sucks. I don't like him. I've been out on him the entire time.
You think his name is the thing that's carrying him to any sort of relevant value?
Yes, I'm a big opinion guy of the Dynasty community finds a name they love and they'll never move off of it. And I think he's one of the biggest examples of that. He had one good season.
His rookie season,
which is pretty good. But after that, he hasn't done literally anything. So what's the point of keeping him around?
And that just the whole skill position room at Atlanta is interesting with Bijan and Drake London.
Algiers looked good. He had 1,000 yards his rookie season. They drafted a running back with a 7th overall pick. That made no sense to me.
Yeah. And also bringing Darnell Mooney in. Atlanta could be very interesting. We'll see what Penix can do to help them out. Next team is Karsten's team. I've got two players here. It's Stafford and Rodgers, just his quarterback situation. Is the clock ticking pretty fast? This is the retirement home await. What's going on there? Stafford might come back. Aaron Rodgers, did he play his last snap? What are you thinking there?
Rodgers, I think, retires. I think unless he gets a really good offer from a team that really wants to build around him, or not build around him, but have him for a loaner for a year. I think Rodgers does retire. It seems like from all the clips people are seeing of him in the locker room after the game and how emotional he is with stuff. And he said he's going to make it pretty clear what's going to happen quickly. He doesn't want to let it loom. I think Stafford stays. I think Stafford will be like Ben Roethlisberger, where he doesn't play. He keeps playing until he can't throw the ball anymore.
Yeah.
Those old guys, Rodgers, Manning. Manning couldn't feel his fingertips in his final season, and he won a Super Bowl. I mean, he shouldn't have. He didn't even start most of the season. It was Brock Osweiler, and then they put Manning in the Super Bowl. I think Brock started most of the playoff games.
That's funny. Yeah, at the time of this recording, Rodgers has not retired. So
he is not.
Who knows? Maybe the news will break.
It's January 11th on a Saturday at 9:47 a.m. right now. So who knows? He might retire. I think he will. I think Stafford will stay at least another year or two. But who knows if that production's actually good. I think for Karsten's sake, he needs at least Stafford to stay because then he can keep Kupp for a little bit longer. And that Eastern Washington legend can continue to be great.
That's right. Let's move on to Max's team, and the player that I have chosen out is Bryce Young. He looked like dog water after they drafted him, and then he got benched, and then he started playing again, and he's kind of the last 5 games looked pretty good. That last game against Atlanta, Atlanta was still playing for something, so they weren't putting in their third stringers, and he kind of balled out. What's your take on Bryce Young? How do you see his outlook?
I actually like Bryce Young a lot. I think A lot of people with a number 1 overall pick wants people to be like a Mahomes his rookie year, where he throws for 5,000 yards and has 50 touchdowns, and it's like the greatest rookie season. I mean, that was technically his sophomore year, but like his greatest rookie you ever see in your life. And I think Baker was in a similar situation. Everyone saw Baker Mayfield and they wanted him to be something he wasn't. Baker's a pocket passer who has some athletic ability. And people wanted him to be something he wasn't. And they wanted him to be the greatest thing known to man because they drafted him first overall. But I think Bryce Young has the potential to do good. I think him getting benched was a good thing. And I think that he has a chance to do something good. He threw 5 touchdowns against Atlanta. Atlanta's defense isn't amazing, but that video of him throwing the pass and then turning around and saying touchdown before the dude almost dropped it was amazing. That was pretty funny. He had to do a double clutch to catch it, and he was wide open. But I think Bryce Young could be good. I think it's tough. I think he has to play. They have to make plays that go to his strengths because he won the Heisman in college at his height, but like the NFL is a different game. So I think he has to play to his strengths, and I think Canales, is the coach over there, is doing it well. I think he was the guy who revitalized Baker's career in Tampa. I think Baker was always great. I just think people wanted more out of him. Yeah, and I think Bryce Young's in a very similar situation than Baker.
That's a very interesting take. Once Max watches this, I'm sure Bryce Young's value is just going to skyrocket. His price just went up. Thanks a lot, Casey.
Yep. He already wanted a lot. I've learned.
But if anyone was curious about why Casey made that weird face a little bit ago, it's because the heat turned on here in the office.
I thought someone was walking in the other room, and I was like, who's coming here on a Saturday at 9 in the morning?
Let's move forward to Zeke's team. One of his few players that are worth talking about is Trey McBride. Does he recover next season? Like, he was really great this season. So when I say recover, I'm not saying he's bad, but I'm kind of looking at his touchdown production. Like, he was he the number 1 tight end on the season? Number 2? Probably number 2 behind Brock Bowers.
I think he was 3. I think he was behind Kittle.
So, regardless, great tight end he had 1 touchdown maybe in the entire, fantasy season. I think he scored 2 touchdowns or something in week 18.
He had 1 receiving touchdown all year. He had a rushing touchdown week 1 or 2 or something like that.
So does he recover that and the touchdowns start coming for him next year? Is he going to be the tight end 1 next year? What do you think? What's your take?
I think Bowers has solidified the 1. I mean,
I think Bowers will be drafted 1 overall.
Yeah. I think Bowers could easily be the 1 again. McBride could easily be 2. I think a lot of things that happened was that offense in Arizona is pretty bad, and they're running poorly. They're using players wrong, I think, personally, and not playing them to their strengths. And I think Trey McBride could get a lot of touchdowns because Kyler threw, I think, less touchdowns this year than he did last year. He threw around the same amount of passing yards, but his touchdown production was lower than it's been in a long time. And he had one of his lower finishes, fantasy wise at least, being outside the top 10 after playing a full season. So I think they need to fix their whole offensive scheme around using players.
Kyler this year threw 21 touchdowns and 5 rushing. Last year he only threw 10 touchdowns, but he also only played 8 games last year.
Yeah.
So he finally played 17 games this year. So we're probably going to see those numbers be up, of course, playing more. But I guess if you're looking at, he played almost 10 more games than last year, and he only threw 11 more touchdowns.
Yeah.
But he also threw 11 interceptions.
Yeah, so I think this was a bit down year for Kyler, and I think they were a team like the Eagles where they always get down at the 1 yard line, and they would just run it in with James Conner. And I think the more James Conner runs himself to the ground, he's getting pretty old. He hurt himself at the last week, I think. I think when he leaves, the passing offense will thrive.
Yeah.
And I think that'll benefit everybody in that offense. McBride could easily get a lot of touchdowns. Because I think he saw stuff all over Twitter where he was breaking the record for most receptions without a receiving touchdown over 90.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's insane because a lot of wide receivers will have 100 catches on a season and have 12 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. And he has around the same amount and only has 1 receiving touchdown. So I think he can be up there. I think Kittle's getting older, so I don't think you can rate him as high.
Yeah, let me pull up McBride real quick.
But I think the difference between the tight end one last year with it being Laporta. People didn't know Laporta was going to be amazing. People knew going into it that Bowers was a receiver. He would line up in the slot at Georgia and take a slant 60 yards to the house as a tight end against the SEC.
Also, according to Sleeper, he ended the season as the PPR tight end too.
Oh,
McBride did.
I didn't know that.
With 147 targets, 111 receptions, 1,100 yards, with 2 receiving touchdowns.
Does that mean Kittle was 3? He was. Half PPR he was 2, but he was 3.
But continuing talking about the passing weapons in Arizona, let's move to your team. And I want to talk about Marvin Harrison. Like, what happened with him? He was touted to be this great receiver. You know, he was even being drafted at the end of the first round, the 1-2 turn in redrafts. Was he a bust? Does he become elite in 2025? Tell me what's going on with him and how are you feeling?
I feel fine with him. I think if an 800-yard season is a bust season, I'll take it. Don't
get me wrong. I think that is a great season for a rookie. But from where he was drafted to be and who he was touted to be, that does feel like a bust.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like people wanted him to be like more of like Malik Neighbors, but that's just not who he is. Malik Neighbors is in the similar tree as Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, where they're outside burners and they'll beat someone on the outside and just run it for a touchdown. Marvin Harrison isn't that, and I think they were trying to use him as that. He is a lot more like Amon-Ra, where he has to be kind of a slot merchant and work the middle of the field, because I think he can take a slant the distance if he needs to. But I don't know if he'll really beat a whole lot of people on the outside, because, I mean, you watched him play in Arizona when he went down to the game. He almost runs like he's running in slow motion when he runs. It's like he has the most proper form you could possibly have, and it looks weird.
Yeah, he almost didn't look all that athletic when I watched him, but he can make some plays.
Yeah, so I think he'll be fine. He had the identical season to what his dad did his rookie year.
Interesting.
And I have it pulled up here. And so senior's rookie season, 64 catches, 836 yards, 8 touchdowns. Marvin Harrison Jr. had 63 catches, 885 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So if his dad has the same season, he knows what it's like being a rookie and being a guy, and now his dad's a Hall of Famer. So I think he has all the resources around him to be good. I just think Arizona needs to use him a little bit better, and the more he grows his connection with Kyler, I think the better it'll get, because DeAndre Hopkins was already amazing when he got to Arizona. So him and Kyler had that instant connection, because DeAndre Hopkins is a generational wide receiver. But like the second year, he was even better than he was the first year in Arizona. So I think it'll be a similar thing. And I think if they start using him more in the slot, I think that they can use him a little bit better, and they need to get someone better than Greg Dortch to run out on the outside to run deep.
Totally. Let's move on to Bryce's team. The player I want to talk about is T. Higgins. You know, he's got great talent. He wants to stay in Cincinnati, but will he be a Patriot? Obviously, injuries have kind of lacked him. I have hit him quite a bit, but what's your take on T? And, you know, I say he wants to stay in Cincy. Burrow and Chase also want him to stay in Cincy. Does that play into like where he's at next year? What do you see the outlook on T. Higgins?
I think the Bengals need to be smart about what they do,
because they still have to pay Chase.
They had to pay Chase, and their defense was atrocious. They paid Burrow to stay, and they're going to have to pay the Triple Crown winner to stay.
Definitely.
He's going to get a bigger contract than Justin Jefferson. He says he wants one bigger than him. T. Higgins said he wants to get paid, and then randomly says, well, I have a good quarterback. I'm okay paying less, getting paid less if I need to.
Yeah, he has a good chance at the Super Bowl probably.
Yeah, but I think like Joe Burrow had an MVP season, and they missed the playoffs because their defense is horrible.
Yeah.
So I think the Bengals need to look into what they actually need, and I think they can run off Yoshi Voss and Burton as a 2 if they needed to. I think T. Higgins should leave personally and selfishly. Want him to go to the Patriots. He obviously won't win a lot of playoff games there, but he'll get paid, and he'll have a good rookie quarterback to throw to him.
I've also seen the Panthers thrown around as a rumored landing spot for T. Higgins.
That'd be nice. But I think he could stay in Cincy. The money situation's weird there. They need to figure out their defense, because I'm not sure where Trey Hendrickson is on his contract, but he needs to get a lot of money. I think he got paid recently. I think him and Sam Hubbard need to stay there, but they need to figure out their secondary because their defense is just atrocious.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to watch. I think I posted this in our chat, a while back. I think the 2025 offseason, or like this offseason between now and start of 2025 is going to be really interesting with all these coaching changes and everything and players going into free agency. It's going to be an exciting time to watch. Let's move on to Jason's team. I want to hear about Michael Penix. And is he really him? Did the Falcons actually make a good decision by drafting him? What is it, 8th overall? And did he just save Drake London's career?
I think Drake London was playing good with Kirk. I think he was like a top 10 receiver still in fantasy when he was with Kirk. But I think Penix is going to be all right. He looks like he doesn't do too good in high pressure situations. Like that game against Carolina. Carolina's defense is horrible. They should have just run over them pretty easily the entire time, and they didn't. And I think in like the national championship when he was playing Michigan, he looked really bad. Mm-hmm. The only player who actually looked good in that game was Rome Odunze, and he was the reason why they were trying to get closer, but they just had no chance against Michigan. And I think that's the one thing that I've seen with Penix is he doesn't rise to the occasion a lot, at least in college. He barely beat Texas in the semifinal game. And Texas is like, Quinn Ewers isn't good. They lost to Ohio State yesterday as filming this, and he's going to stay in college another year. And he was supposed to be a guy who would go to the NFL.
Yeah.
So I think he can be good. I think you need to learn how to play the big moment. I think Atlanta's missing a lot of pieces on defense mainly, but I think their offense is going to be pretty good going forward.
Nice. Okay, then let's move on to Sam's. That's a good take on Penix. I want to hear about Brandon Ayuk. Is he going to be a factor for his team next year? He was kind of a diva. Will he be a top 12 wide receiver with Brock Purdy? Like what's your take on Brandon Ayuk, especially with like kind of the emergence of Juwan Jennings? Like obviously San Fran paid Ayuk and he needs to be there.
Yeah.
Debo, I don't know what's happening there.
He's gone.
Tell me your thoughts and takes on Brandon Ayuk.
I think like nobody knows what's going to happen with him because he got hurt so early and he was sucking when he was playing. I think Debo's gone. I think he goes somewhere else. I think there's no reason to pay him to be a terrible wide receiver.
They got Pearsall, so like they got the depth.
Yeah, and Pearsall, from Luke's perspective, is someone who they love to throw the ball to one week and then ignore for the rest of the season.
Poor guy.
Yeah, poor guy. He got shot in the chest and then still played, which is crazy. But I think he could be another top guy because he was really good. Mm-hmm. But I'm interested to see how that dynamic goes because they have to pay Purdy, I think.
Yeah, they're gonna have to pay Purdy. That whole offense is very interesting. They were the Max Dwyer of the NFL, and then now they're like the bottom of the barrel. Like what happened? So that's gonna be really interesting to look into and watch and see what happens there. Staying with the 49ers, I want to talk about on Chance's team. I want to talk about Brock Purdy. Like we said, they're gonna have to pay him soon. What do you think he gets? Is he propped up because he's got a decent offense, or is he actually pretty good and everyone was idiots to pass on him in the draft to make him Mr. Relevant?
Yeah, I think he gets paid. I think he gets around $40 million a year. I don't think he'll get above Dak. I don't think he'll get above Mahomes. I don't think you could reasonably do that.
You think he's 40? You don't think he's going to hit the 50 range?
No. The only reason why he would hit 50 if he did is if the cap increased again, I think. Because he had a pretty bad year this year comparative to his years in the past.
Yeah.
I think that's just a part of their team not being as good. So I'm interested to see how much they actually pay him.
Yeah, it's interesting. In 2023, he finished the season as the quarterback 6 in PPR. Just talking fantasy, not NFL. But he finished as quarterback 14 this year.
Yeah, it's like a double the worst difference, middle of the pack kind of guy.
He threw 11 more touchdowns last year than this year. He threw 31 touchdowns and only threw 20 this year.
Yeah, 20 is not that. I think Bo Nix had more than that. And Bo Nix is the rookie on Denver's offense who has Cortland Sutton as their number 1, and their number 2 is Devon Vele.
Or Marvin Mims.
Hey, he's a deep shot guy. He's all right. He's not my favorite thing in the world.
Hey, you loved him in the draft. Sean
I
Payton's
did.
first draft pick.
He was Sean Payton's first draft pick as a Bronco, so I liked him a lot during the draft. Traded him away for Devon Achane, who I traded away from Marquise Brown. So that happens.
Hey, it all happens. Well, that'll be interesting to watch San Francisco Niners moving forward. And last but not least, we'll go to my team. And I want to pick your brain on Sam Darnold. I think there's been so many questions around him. Does he start next year? Who's he going to start with? And what does that mean for J.J. McCarthy? Like, tell me your thoughts on Darnold. Like, he's had just this incredible, outlandish season that no one ever thought Darnold could ever do. So let's hear your thoughts.
I think he's playing like when he was supposed to be when he got drafted. When he was at USC, he was supposed to be like the next super kid. I don't know how people talk for 15 minutes without water. This is insane.
We'll get water next time.
Yeah, we're rookies here, so we
That's right.
can make mistakes. But I think he is someone I think they have to pay. That video of him in the locker room after they won the game to get into the playoffs, the one before the Vikings, not the Vikings game, the Lions game, where like Kevin O'Connell was sitting there like a proud dad in the corner watching everybody love on Sam Darnold. Like, they have to pay him. There's no way they can't. I think he gets a 2-year deal. And I think for J.J. McCarthy's sake, I think there's like a learning period for him. He got hurt.
Unfortunate.
It looks like Anakin Skywalker on the sidelines now.
Yep.
I'm interested to see what they do with him. I don't think they would trade him unless they get a good thing
Who knows,
back.
if he's looking like Anakin Skywalker, maybe they trade him to another team and he gets this whole like Revenge of the Sith like appeal going, and he just like goes all hard and
ruins his life and it ends up sucking or becomes the greatest thing in the universe.
Well, you know, Anakin did eventually restore balance to the Force, so maybe he does do that somewhere else.
That could happen. But I think they have to pay Darnold. I think there's no reason not to. He proved himself. Give him another prove-it contract. Make it 2 years this time.
Let's assume that they don't pay him and he goes to free agency. What is your best guess at who grabs him and how much does he make?
I think teams that need to grab him would be New Orleans would be one of them. I think they'd pay him. Actually, they can't really pay him. They have like no money. The Saints suck and have no like. They were like for a long time one of the worst teams in cap. So I think I'm interested because like Derek's Carr contract was pretty big.
See, I'm saying pull up their cap. See how much they.
But I think they need a quarterback. The Raiders need a quarterback really bad, but I'm not sure if that's the place where he'd want to go. I think he needs to go somewhere where he'd be successful. If he went back to the Jets, that'd be hilarious.
So they are 32nd in cap space according to Spotrac. Their total cap is $341 million. This says they're minus $61 million.
Oh yeah, so they're
32nd?
They're the worst team in the NFL with managing the cap. Yeah, the salary cap doesn't exist, and they don't know how to use it.
First in dead cap with $48 million.
Yeah, it might be Michael Thomas's contract still.
Let's see here if
I don't know if it'll say, but Michael Thomas got paid a lot of money, and then he ended up sucking, and they just got rid of him. He didn't sign with the team this year too, which is
he might be done.
Yeah, well, like Kansas City didn't even sign him, and Kansas City needed they traded for DeAndre Hopkins.
So Michael Thomas's cap hit in 2025 is $9,187,000.
Yeah, and he's not even playing. Getting paid $9 million to sit on your couch at home and watch TV. That sounds pretty great.
Not a bad deal. So you said Saints would need to get him, but they can't grab Darnold. So who else did you say?
I think the Jets would be hilarious if they got Darnold again, bring him back. Giants could get him. And then came with Neighbors, could be exciting. Raiders, but I think those are like the big four.
Yeah.
But I think that they want to draft a rookie.
Yeah.
Most of those teams, but
That's interesting. Well, speaking of the draft, let's try and talk about the 2025 draft here briefly. I pulled up an NFL draft, mock draft, that was just posted 2 or 4 hours ago on Pro Football Network. And tell me your take. So Tennessee Titans, number 1 overall, they have them taking Cam Ward at QB.
smart. Will Levis sucks. He's terrible.
Yeah, he definitely did not become what I hoped he would become. I had high hopes for him. But
Yeah, once you started seeing pictures of him every week doing something crazy, you knew it was over.
You knew it was bad. Number 2, the Browns. They have taking Travis Hunter.
I think that's wrong. I think they should take a quarterback.
They really should. Deshaun Watson,
Deshaun Watson's done. I was watching the Pat McAfee show, and Schefter was talking about how the Browns need to draft a quarterback or bring in someone in free agency.
Yeah.
That's going to be good.
Number 3, and we'll just probably go for like the top 5 or 6 guys here. I'll look for some skill positions.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about all the other stuff. But number 3, the Giants. They have the Giants taking Shedeur Sanders. I mean, that makes sense in my head.
He wore his Giants cleats in his bowl game where he threw like 3 interceptions and couldn't score a touchdown to save his life. So it makes sense he's going to go there. Sorry, Carson.
Number 4, the Patriots. We'll talk about they have them taking an edge here. Abdul Carter. I don't know much about.
I know nothing about this draft class in general. When you have no draft picks, you don't look a whole lot. So,
but you do know maybe as a May owner, kind of the stuff that they need to help.
Yeah, they need everything. That seems horrible. They need to get a wide receiver. So I think with them mocking them to get an edge, you would have to assume they're trying to sign a free agent somewhere.
Yeah, that makes sense. At number 5, the Jags they have them taking Will Johnson, a cornerback.
You can ask Bryce about that one. He probably knows exactly what they need.
Yeah, that's true. Reach out to Bryce.
It's a head coach. That's what they really need.
they need a lot over there. Number 6, they have the Raiders taking a tackle. The Jets taking a DT, defensive tackle, right? DT.
Yeah.
Panthers taking an edge. Let's scroll down. Oh, here we go. So the Saints at number 9, they have the Saints taking Ted McMillan.
Why? That makes 0 sense.
Here's what the little description says. It says, between Chris Olave's issues with concussions and Rashid Shaheed suffering a season-ending meniscus injury, the Saints wide receiver room has talent but brings more questions than answers at this point. One thing the Saints don't have that they could find in McMillan is a true big-bodied boundary threat. The Arizona standout has a large catch radius with tremendous ball skills and his sturdy hands and fluid hips.
Yeah, he looks really good from what I've seen. I would love for him to go to New England, but if he went to the Saints, that'd be hilarious too.
Yeah, they need a lot of help as well, but who knows what they're going to do. Here we go. So at 12, I'm skipping, the Bears and San Fran, but going down to 12 because this is another skill position, is Ashton Genty, running back, Boise State, going to the Dallas Cowboys.
I would love that. Bring it back. Make it like it's Zeke again. Zeke, his rookie year, was phenomenal, and Ashton Genty would just do the same thing. The only thing is Zach Martin might retire, and he's a Hall of Fame right guard. He's like I think he's like one of the only like offensive linemen that's actually ranked 99 in Madden.
Wow. So you can have a great running back, but if you don't have a good line.
Yeah, so they have a good line still. Their left tackle, Tyler Smith is playing guard. He's pretty good. They just drafted Guyton from Oklahoma last year, and he's been all right, but he had a lot of penalties as a rookie, so we'll see what happens there. I think they need to fire Mike McCarthy, but I don't know if they'll actually do it. And paying Dak was a mistake, I think.
Scrolling down to pick number 20 on this is the Tampa Bay Bucks, and they have him taking the Bucks taking Luther Burden III, wide receiver out of Missouri.
Oh yeah, he was supposed to be like the top guy, and then he kind of fell off a little bit.
Do you think the Bucks need another wide receiver? Would you agree with that, or do you think they have needs elsewhere?
I think they have other needs, but I think there's nothing wrong with that. With Chris Godwin getting hurt, like I think I saw him. He like kind of mouthed on the cart when he was getting carted off, like I'm done. A little bit, so I'm not sure if he'll actually come back or not. Well, Bryce traded a first, I think, for him.
Oh, does Bryce have Godwin now?
Yeah, he traded DeAndre Hopkins and something.
Oh, you're right.
Oh no, Robbie traded the first for Godwin, but Rob traded Godwin to
for Hopkins. Yeah, Rob now has Hopkins instead of Godwin. So who knows? Maybe that pays out for Rob. Let's see if there's anything else. There's a tight end here, Tyler Warren from Penn State, going to the Broncos. I don't know if people
would
are just
love that.
You would love that as a Bo Nix owner.
I would love that, but I think he goes to Indy. I think I've seen a lot of people saying like Indy needs to draft a tight end. Like that's the narrative all year. Granson isn't that good.
They actually have 2 tight ends going in this draft in the first round. The Chargers taking one at 25. Colston Loveland out of Michigan.
That would make sense with Harbaugh being there and knowing how he is. And I think Loveland, he's still good if he's going in the first round. They're not going to reach that far. They're not the Seahawks. So
yeah, that's true. Let's see here. I think that about does it on the draft. We haven't really been looking. At 18, they have the Hawks taking a tackle, an offensive tackle, which the Hawks need a lot of help on that O-line. So it'll be interesting. Let's throw a hypothetical out there. the Hawks trade their first round pick
Makes sense.
and DK Metcalf for JJ McCarthy and Jordan Addison and Geno. They trade Geno, Metcalf, and their first for McCarthy and Addison.
I don't think that would happen because of Sam Darnold.
Geno would be. Well, I guess they wouldn't need Geno's backup because they got Daniel Jones. Do the Vikings also re-sign Daniel Jones as a backup, or is he going to be a free agent? Maybe end up as a Raider.
Who knows? I honestly don't know. Daniel Jones is terrible. He's always been bad. They paid him off of one good season. I don't know why they did that. He won a playoff game. They're like, okay, let's give this guy $45 million to suck.
Well, before we start rambling on too much here and talking about stuff we don't know about and losing our viewership, let's get to the awards.
What people are waiting for.
Yeah, people have been waiting for the Pepinos. They want to hear these Pepinos.
It's like the Dundies, but better.
Exactly. So our first Pepino that we want to hand out is called the Palm Springs Retirement Facility, and that goes to Rob for having probably the oldest team in our league. Who knows? Maybe he runs it back. But congratulations, Rob, on having the Old Fart Award. The next award we've titled as the Art of the Deal Award, and this goes to Sam. Sam, congratulations on the Art of the Deal. You were able to trade, 2 seconds for 2 firsts?
Yeah, and it was Roman Wilson and Blake Corum.
Yeah, so I don't know how that happened. Good work. You deserve that. Art of the Deal, Sam. This third award is the Rotten Milk Award. This is the award for the trade that just aged the worst over time and has just become spoiled milk. This goes to Bryce for the trade with me where he gave away Darnold and Alec Pierce for Deshaun Watson and who was it? Jalen Polk and Jameis Winston. And a third or something.
And that could be multiple different trades. Like he traded me Chase Brown for Swift.
Yeah. So, Bryce, congratulations on your Rotten Milk Award. The next award we have is called the Mr. Olympia Award. That is probably pretty self-explanatory, just a godlike human, strong. And that goes to the Melonheads, Carson, for just having a team that's going to be elite for years to come. So,
couldn't win the 1 seed, though.
Yeah, that's true. He couldn't win the 1 seed.
He lost to me in the regular season, but he got his revenge, so that's unfortunate.
But the difference between him and you is there's a possibility you don't make the playoffs next year, and people wouldn't be surprised, whereas if he doesn't make the playoffs next year, it's going to be very shocking.
Yeah, I saw a guy this year have the first and .4s and miss, so
hey,
it happens.
The next award is called Daddy's Money Award, and this goes to Casey. He had the easiest path to the playoffs. And what that means is he had the least points against with his. So everyone just choked when they got to him. So he just had a really easy path. He didn't have a whole lot of points for. We can look that up.
I was in the middle of the pack. I wasn't the worst. I was outside the playoffs.
Wasn't the best, but he had a pretty easy path there. So Daddy's Money helped him get there. And then we got the Punching Bag Award. This goes to the player who had the least points for with a top 3, technically top 2 points against. He just kept getting hit left and right. Everyone had their best game against him, and that goes to Luke. Luke, congratulations on the Punching Bag Award. And our last award is we call the Trent Baalke Award. This is just the worst management of a team. This player had roughly a 400-point difference from their points for to their max points for. So they had 1,614.46 points for, and then they had 2,017.8 max points for. So if they would have played their cards right and managed the team better, they could have made the playoffs, and that goes to Bryce. So congratulations on our awards winners. Thanks for tuning in, and maybe we'll see you guys again. Maybe we won't, but
Ted, who knows?
Who knows?
All I know is next time we need water. That's all we know.
That's right. From Casey and Austin, we're your podcast hosts. We hope you enjoyed. Maybe we'll catch you in the next one.
See ya.